And we are live, and we're live. Welcome to the show, everyone. My name is Maximo, your host, as always, taking over your Tuesday. And in downtown San Antonio right now, they're not talking about Pink. They're not talking about, who is this, Guns N' Roses? They're talking about the Maximo Show and Candice Terrazas. Candice, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here tonight. How are you?
Good. Really excited to be here. I think we're going to have a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Oh, we got too much stuff. They're going to have to cut us off.
How many subjects have we covered?
We've already covered a million subjects in the pre-show, folks. We didn't get that, but there's clips on our social media. So find us on social media, like us, follow us, because we got good energy flowing. And that's really the true essence of what we try to do here at the show. We bring good people in. We have great conversations for people, culture, and power talks to leave you thinking about a lot of different subjects. And Candice is someone that does a little bit of it all. We were hearing about some of her business exploits, her entrepreneurship, you know, things that she's done as an athlete, as someone who's into fitness, as a parent. You've got a full day. What are your days like? Can we just jump into that?
Every day is different. Every day is different. You know, I think there's a lot of pivoting, and thankfully, I think to be successful at anything, you have to be adaptable and willing to change. And so, yeah, I mean, I plan out my week, my month, a month in advance, and then I plan out my weeks every Sunday night. I designate what my week's going to look like, but you give yourself permission for things to change and pivot. You know, again, as a mom, a wife, have businesses, and so, you know, just stay adaptable, but go in with a plan.
So, you know, one thing I recognize from just speaking with Candice here candidly, you know, before, is it sounds like you're highly organized, and these are habits of successful people. Now, yes. I ask, you know, getting into the weeds, because there's levels to success. There's levels to all of this. Mm-hmm. You mentioned you plan your weeks and your months ahead of time. Does it always go according to plan?
Very rarely.
Yeah. And I knew that it was, I knew that, but I mean, let's talk about that. You know, I mean, do you give yourself that grace? You know, I mean, what does that look like if you don't get something done in a day, productivity wise? Mm-hmm. I mean, are you beating yourself up on it? You're telling, man, I'm so stupid, I didn't do this.
No, absolutely not. I think a lot of it is just, what are the non-negotiables, right? So in business, there are a few things what we can end up considering boring things that lead to success. And that's actually why a lot of businesses don't thrive, is because when it gets boring, they stop doing it. And so there's a few non-negotiables that just get done every single day. And, you know, then of course appointments get canceled or things that get moved. And so again, it's just pivoting and finding space and making arrangements. But I go in with a mindset of I'm going to go out and do what I set out to do. Right. And if things change, then I make my time, you know, what can I do with that time that is nothing goes to waste. And you give yourself grace, because not everything's in your control, and we don't want it like that. I would not want everything to be under my control. I like, you know, that's the biggest blessings that have come my way, have been me not being in control, actually being in surrender. Like, okay, what, you know, leaving room for good things to come.
Yeah. So it's interesting too. You mentioned pivoting. There's certain words, you know, that we use to give ourselves those grace, and to use, you know, words in the business field, you know, to be savvy. You know, I like using the word finesse. I like using the word, being savvy, being elusive almost in some senses, you know, with how you move and how you know, navigate certain spaces. You know, you mentioned earlier a word that I thought was funny. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say this live, but you said that, you know, in your business, you don't operate like a shark, right? And that's like a savvy. You think of someone who's a shark, someone who's like a go-getter, someone who's hungry, someone that's willing to do anything for a deal and for a sale, right? And so, you know.
And what's interesting though is I'll add, I don't think of myself like a shark, and I also know that I'm a high achiever. It just looks different.
Yeah.
Right. So I set very high standards for myself, and my path to get there may just look different. It's not going to be at all costs. I'm going to do everything I set out to do. And I like to give myself time frames. I think sometimes, as I was sharing earlier, we can tend to think if we have a long time, or, oh, life's a marathon. There's all these like little cliches and saying that. Just give yourself permission to not do it. And I'm not going to give myself permission to not do it. I like to give myself the time frames. And even if it doesn't happen within that time frame, but you've got to have a plan. You know, the bodybuilding thing, when I decided I was going to do it, I had a time frame. It was like November, December. I decided I was going to do it the following year. that following November. So I kind of came into the year knowing what was going to happen. And if I wasn't ready for it, I wouldn't have beat myself up. It would have been, okay, we'll move it to the next one. But the benchmark just helps you prepare for it. It helps you gauge. And if you're working with a mentor or coach, then they are somebody who's more better versed in that field or has more experience is going to guide you more appropriately if you have specific goals.
So let's get into that subject as well. And anybody that's watching this, and you're probably thinking this, right? This guy's all over the place with these subjects, but we're jumping around. We're just having fun tonight.
Yeah.
You talk about bodybuilding. How the heck do you get involved in bodybuilding? Have you always been someone who worked out? You know, you decided, you know, you mentioned something earlier, you know, faith is spelled R-I-S-K, right? Because, you know, stepping on stage as a bodybuilder, I mean, that's got to be a little frightening. You know, it wouldn't be for me. I'm not going to go up there and stand in a Speedo.
Yeah. You know, I did my first show in 2014 and it was in a different division and it was a bucket list thing. But I was 39. I said, you know what? Next year, my goal is I'm going to go into my 40s in the best shape in my life. And, you know, told my husband, we made a plan and hired a coach. And it was something that I realized it wasn't just impacting my fitness or, you know, what may look on a superficial level, your physique, but it was shifting me mentally, who I was showing up as a mom, how I was showing up as a wife in my business, the things that I was being challenged with, the risks that I was starting to take, the ideas that I was getting, even in my gym time. You know, sometimes I'm listening to these leadership podcasts or, you know, just the ideas that were coming in my gym time. Here I am, you know, pressing, you know, doing workouts that I've never done in my life, challenging my body literally to its limits. And at the same time, you know, I was also challenging my mind, you know, these ideas that started coming in. I started to journal them and I realized I like this competitive edge in me. And so even though I competed and I did too that year, I decided, why am I going to stop something that's helping me show up better?
Yeah, there you go.
Setting a higher standard on myself. And so I'm just loving it. I'm having so much fun. I like having strategy in the gym. You know, I think for a long time, or so many people, we walk into the gym and what am I going to work on, or today's shoulders, and we just don't go in with enthusiasm. Yeah. Health is probably the most precious gift that we have. So I go in with my plan, super excited. I'm going to kill it. And not every day do I kill it, but I love having that passion for something else outside of that's not directly tied to business or to money. You know, it's just something for me.
Yeah. And again, something else you said that, you know, reverberates with me is showing up. Is showing up. You know, I coach as well, you know, young people, you know, young professionals, and showing up is more than half the battle with anything you may want to accomplish. You know, my son, he's a young athlete as well. And I tell him, keep going. Keep going. You fall down, get up. You stumble, get back on.
That's right.
And it's that mindset of, you know, success almost at all costs, you know, and that sounds a little heavy handed, but it's like, you know, maybe another trait of successful people because not every day is going to be a good day.
You gotta
show up anyway.
Yeah,
Resilience.
Gotta be resilient. Yeah. And that's like the number one attribute. And there is actually studies that show that, you know, training and exercising just in general, that it changes the resilience in your mind, the neurons, everything that actually shifts your brain. Even from a professional level, if you're an employer, it makes 15% increase of productivity in your employees if they exercise versus not. That's 42.5 hours that they can get done the work, and what it takes somebody who doesn't exercise 52 hours. So there's a lot of benefits just from exercising, how you're going to deliver at what you're doing in your day-to-day work.
Yeah. Well, folks, we're having some fun tonight with Candace. If you got questions, comments, go ahead and drop them in. You know, we're going to get to all your questions. If we don't get to them right now, we're going to come back to them. But give this a like, comment, share for all of our supporters. You know, we got to thank y'all for showing up for us here at VODPOD Media every week, week in and week out. We're putting out quality content. None of that gossip and cheeseman that you see in the dark spaces of the interwebs. You know, we're putting it down here for all of our people. You know, we mentioned Hispanic Heritage Month. And again, I'm jumping around, but you know, you're from El Paso, Texas. So tell us a little bit about, you know, your culture and like what that means to you, you know, growing up out there.
Yeah, no, I love my hometown. I moved away to go to college. I moved to San Antonio, went to St. Mary's University, and just have made it home since then. But as I was sharing earlier with you, going back to El Paso, it just makes me so proud because I love that they've embraced change in such a beautiful way, embracing the culture and you know, being innovative with the spaces that could have just ended up being run down like a lot of border cities. So it's just a true joy for me to be able to go back and and see our people doing progressive things, a lot of entrepreneurs. And I love that. You know, I do believe that the entrepreneur spirit's in everyone, yet not everyone wants to execute it or go after the things that set their soul on fire. But I do think it's in everyone. And in El Paso, they do a good job at executing their entrepreneurial spirit.
It's important to, you know, spend your time doing what you love. And that's hard. It's hard for people to find that, right? It is scary. It is taking chances. It is thinking, you know, that maybe this isn't possible in some ways. You know, hearing some of your, you know, business experiences and in your past, you've taken some chances. You know, you're in a good place right now. You know, we'd all be alive if we didn't say we're a work in progress, you know. But tell us a little bit about, you know, how you got started in business a little bit and you know, the mindset you had to have to, you know, take some chances or to kind of figure this thing out.
Yeah. You know, I kind of fell to the floor, so to say, you know, my face planted to the floor and had no way else to look but up. And that's kind of what had me fall into it. I honestly don't know, had I not gotten laid off that job when I was 5 months pregnant, my corporate job, secure and, you know, corporate healthcare, moving the way up the ladder and executive leadership, and lost my job 5 months pregnant. I don't know that I would be where I'm at today. Not like, I'm not even successfully or financially. I'm talking about like just mentally, how I'm just, you know, at a different place than if I had stayed at the traditional job that I was in. But I lost my job and it challenged me to take a risk. We were just coming out of a recession, you know, back in 2009, 2010. And so it challenged me to just, like, what do you have to lose, right? And so then taking that risk and not 1 foot in, and it started with 1 foot in, but when I decided, it was a mental block of, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know what people are going to think. That was a big one. What are people going to think if I fall? What are people going to think if I'm doing something that, you know, they don't approve of? And the minute I made the decision that I'm going all in, and I put both feet in, put my blinders on, stayed up late every night, working, waking up early, thinking of ideas, and just allowed my creativity to flow, that's where it started to make an impact, and it started impacting other people. Other people were starting to gain success from the tools and from my passions and excitement to share more. And so, you know, I think that's the thing. The day you're challenged thinking about success, it's about you. And then the minute you get over yourself, it's about other people. How can I help more people?
Yeah.
And the success comes, you know, when you're intentional about, you know, serving and helping others.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned some other things, and again, we're jumping around here, and that's okay, because that's what we do here. Yeah. But, you know, you mentioned, you know, relationship with money amongst our people. Yeah. And we talk about that all the time here, you know, within these walls, you know, because, you know, our people have a love-hate relationship with money, with spending money, with seeing it as it is. You know, some of our people feel as if money is paper blood. Other people feel like, you know, you have to get up and grind every day, and that, you know, hustle. And, you know, what are we leaving our children with? You know, generational wealth. Our parents, you know, might have raised us in a mindset of, you know, we only have limited means and things of that nature. You know, talk to me a little bit about that. I mean, you know, what is your outlook on money, for one? Yeah.
And so I would challenge any viewer that's listening to this to think of, why do you believe what you believe about money? Whatever it is, there's no right or wrong. Whatever you believe, likely most of it's conditioned. It's your upbringing. Were you told in the house that money doesn't grow on trees? Were you taught that you know, people who have a lot of money do bad things with their money, or, you know, end up being bad guys, or, you know, there's just a lot of unhealthy common practices in homes that, you know, and it's natural, you know, if you come from, you know, really hard, or we come from a generation, I think our culture is, we're hard workers, you know, that's just knitted inside of us. And so it's that mentality to hold on to what you have, and then it's just living that paycheck to paycheck, and then it becomes acceptable. And so now we've become complacent with the just getting by, the paycheck to paycheck, yet we all have what it takes. If you just tuned into, again, we were talking about, sometimes people are just one book away, one podcast away, one conversation, one connection away from radically changing their financial situation. It's just how do I change that scarcity and poverty mindset to an abundance mindset? Opportunities are everywhere. We just have to change the way we look at things. I work really hard at, even just with my children, as I was sharing with you earlier, to not talk about money as, you know, good or bad, or, you know, not enough. It's just, you know, what are the efforts that we need to do? You know, we want to go on this lavish vacation. Okay, these are how many homes that we need to close on, or these are the specific, you know, metrics that need to happen. And so that they're always, we leave them in their mind always a room to think of what how the possibilities. My son, he's 11 years old. He has challenges with some, learning situations in school. So our key thing for him is, what businesses do you want to own? What strengths are that you have? We're not asking, what do you want to be? No, what do you want to own? What are you going to do? What kind of people do you want to help? Who are you going to serve? What do you think your gifts are? And he's real quick. He'll spit off like he's real, he thinks he's real gifted and talented, and he is. And so we want to hone into that, because when you soar with your strengths, that, it really is limitless what you can do. And so I would just challenge, if you've struggled just getting by, or it's been paycheck to paycheck, there's probably a limiting belief somewhere that, that money is not, if we think of money as circulating, then it's not, we don't hold on to it. We don't need to hoard it, because it's always going to come back to us.
That's such interesting, you're right. Opportunity is right there. There's so many opportunities for people, wherever you may be in your life. It's about, how do you find that? How do you attract that? I think about the law of attraction, and you manifest what your mind is on, right?
That's right.
It's like what you're thinking about, what you want, that to me is like a passion. Here with what we do, people ask me all the time, hey, Maxwell, why are you doing this show here? You're here every week doing this show. Is because, we've got stuff to say. We've got, futures. We have, the passions that we have within us. We have the opportunity, with media to shape culture, to, shape lives and mindsets. You mentioned, having, a mindset around money. It should be healthier, right? We should have healthy relationships with people, with products, with things, with ideas. And
it's a tool.
That's
all it is. If we look at it as simple as it's a tool, good people do good things with their money. We need more money in good people's hands. So if you're a good person, you need to be finding ideas. Just it's like law of attraction. Put your eyes on, look for opportunities. Where are there opportunities around you? What connections have you talked to about, opportunities that you perhaps have just closed it off because you think you can't, or you don't have enough, or there's not enough resources. Instead of thinking I can't, or I don't, how can I? And it changes that, a different part of the brain that starts working when you start thinking of the house.
I think about it often because, you're right. People have unhealthy relationships with money. I think about people, if you give someone $100, I hear people all the time, they go out and blow their money on clothes, which is, I guess if you want to do that, not a big deal, but it's like, if you get $100, what can you do with that money? Could you, invest it? Could you, find a way to make more money? Do you go and just save it? Do you blow it? Right. These are things that we need to talk about with regards to creating wealth in our communities, because, with money, you have the opportunity. With money, you have power. With money, you have the opportunity to create. You mentioned vacations. Some people don't have the opportunity to go on vacations. I wish they did. I wish everyone could experience, lavish things and feel good and have confidence and be able to travel, but the reality is some people don't. How can we leverage it? How can we do better, right? These are some of the tips that I hoped you would share tonight, because, you have a mindset. I understand you provide life coaching for people as well. And to be a bodybuilder, to do that work, I know how disciplined you have to be. We're talking strict with sleep, with eating, with your workout programs. Just that alone. Now, you had to have that come from somewhere, this insane amount of discipline, this focus. Where does that come from?
Again, I think it was going to be that first venture into entrepreneurship,
Okay.
And just really like taking that risk, and just going out there and, it's that snowball effect. Sometimes you just got to do it and got to grind and got to do it and got to grind until all of a sudden there's momentum, and we can't ride on motivation. Motivation's great, but that's not going to get you through, because motivation dies a lot of days. And so it's that commitment to myself, and also like how much do I respect myself? If I am willing to say no to myself, then I've just lost respect for myself. And so I have to respect myself enough that I can do what I said I was going to do. And so again, it's just challenged me to show up differently. If I make that decision, and it's not to say that like I don't have hard days. I just shared with you 2.5 weeks before the bodybuilding show, I almost quit. So you have I'm still human, right? And you're going to have hard days. It's who do you have championing you, and who are you allowing to speak into your life? And then how are you pressing through? Like, what are the things that you're doing to just do it and not get into your feelings? Like, feelings make great servants, but they make terrible masters. If we go by our feelings, like, oh gosh, today I don't feel like getting up at 5 to do my cardio or do my workout or start on my business before the kids get up and all the things that I need to do, then then do you really want it, you know? And then I settle for a mediocre life. But those are not things that anybody's called to do. I believe that we're all a thumbprint. We all have unique gifts and talents, and they're all designed when we're excelling in them and actually, you know, like tuned into what they are, they're designed to impact and help other people. It's not just for you. Like they're not for you to just attain it. It's to help other people.
Yeah. And so folks, if you're watching this right now, you know, we're speaking on those opportunities. Look, if there's any way we can help you here, you know, if there's opportunities, you know, connections we can make, you know, drop, you know, a comment in, you know, the comment section, you know, let us know how we can help you. Let us know how we can connect you. You know, if you're looking for a sign with taking a jump, with making a change in your life, here it is, you know. That's right. You're right. I mean, the opportunities are there, you know, for people. And you're right. I know so many people that are like amazing at this particular thing, maybe as an artist or maybe as, you know, a musician or, you know, someone who's a good speaker. And, you know, they don't want to jump into that for whatever reason. They just don't have the confidence. They just, you know, are rather err on the side of caution, you know. And so what do you tell those people?
I think it's reflecting on what story are you telling yourself, because there's a story, there's a narrative there. Well, what if it doesn't work? What if I took a risk and then I don't have my safe paycheck and then it doesn't go down? And they go down this rabbit hole of all the what ifs, but that story is not serving you. And so how could we look at this different? What would it look like if it did work? Yeah. And then they start painting that picture and then just like, oh my gosh, like, well, then I'd be getting gigs at more places and and then somebody could spotlight me and then I could end up being, you know, on the road and traveling and touring, you know, if it is a musical gift or whatnot. And so, okay, that's the story we're going to tell ourselves to help you, you know, navigate the hard, because it's still uncomfortable. It doesn't make it easy. Like, okay, I'm going to quit my 9 to 5. But if that's the thing you really want to do and you're really good at it, and other people have told you, you don't just think it yourself, but other people have told you that this is your gift, this is your thing, you know, you're worth taking a risk on. You're worth it. You know, life is just so short that if we don't go and do the things that we're excited about, you know, then we come home and it's, again, how are you showing up as a husband and a wife, or how are you showing up as mom or dad? How are you showing up to your coworkers in that space? It all impacts everything. You know, if I'm not committed to myself in the gym and I don't show up for myself, it does impact how I show up as a wife and a mom. And if I'm not committed to, you know, excelling at work and feeling like a badass and like just like I gave it my all, even if I didn't get what I wanted, but I know I gave it my all, I can come home and be like fully present as mom because I know I exhausted everything that I needed to give in my work. And so they all play a piece in everything. And I think sometimes we have this like fallacy of balance, like, oh, but if I do that, then I won't be able to, you know, like this part of my life is going to fall off. But what if they're all interconnected and we kind of need to tend to them? I don't think balance is a real thing to begin with, but, you know, they're all kind of interconnected. Our passions, the things we're excited about, you know, when people ask me, why do you do bodybuilding? Like you have, you know, you don't make money from it. No, but not everything we do needs to come for money.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like your creativity is so pivotal in the things that you're supposed to be doing in your business, you know. And if you exercise, you know, maybe for you it's I've always wanted to learn how to fly a plane, or I've always wanted to pick up a guitar, or I used to play guitar and I haven't in years and I probably should pick it back up. Like we just get busy in the mundane. And there's a quote that says, you know, the bad thing with the rat race is that even if you win, you're still a rat. Like we don't want to just go by in life just doing the mundane work. And some people are okay with that. And I would challenge them to say, are you really? What makes it okay? Is it because you don't believe that you're worth more?
That's like that gut check. That's like that looking yourself in the mirror and saying, you know, what am I doing? You know, like really checking yourself. Yeah. And that's something that takes some maturity to do. Some people don't want to be uncomfortable. Some people don't want to question what they're doing every day.
But nothing amazing happens in the comfort zone. You know that. Yeah. We got to get out of the comfort zone. It's got to be a little uncomfortable. But I think that's also too, like, you know, as a pioneer, if you decide you're going to go out and take the risk, then again, who are the people that are championing you through it? You know, like be super cautious. For a lot of people, it'd mean that you'd probably have to cut ties with a lot of people in your life, even if it's just temporarily. Like in this one season that I need to go after something that I don't want to do, but I know I need to do, I need to cut ties with so-and-so and so-and-so because I know, and you can probably list out the reasons why. They won't believe in you. They think it's silly. They want you to stay mediocre because they're mediocre. You know, there's just a lot of reasons why. And you got to, this is a time like tunnel vision, surround yourself, get a coach, get a mentor, somebody that can like speak life into you, give you guidance, help you when you want to quit, because you will. And then when you press through, then that's just maybe a space that you can invite those people back in.
So you mentioned something earlier as well, that everything you do or everything you try, you get a coach for. I mentor, people as well. And one of the questions I question people with before I start working with them is, how coachable are you? And I like to let's get that. I want to know what you think about yourself up front. Because as you just mentioned, some people don't want to be questioned. Some people don't want to get out of their comfort zone. Some people want to believe that everything that they're doing is right. Some people want to believe that they have no toxic traits, that they do absolutely nothing wrong. Yeah. And, from an athlete's perspective, LeBron James has a coach. Ronaldo has a coach. Cristiano Ronaldo has a coach. I mean, nobody is not continuously evolving.
Correct.
We should be striving to get better, but how we take advice, I think, is maybe a sensitive subject for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times are we willing to face our demons? And sometimes it goes deep, in coaching, sometimes it goes real deep. Somebody might think they're coming to me because they're trying to find that next step, and then ends up going down to what the roadblock, the obstacle that's keeping them there is something from childhood. So you got to be willing to face the hard stuff. And when you really get real with yourself and what's keeping you from going after the things that you want to do and the things that you're supposed to be doing, that's where the work becomes meaningful. That's where there's so much more at stake in pursuing it, because you had to fight yourself to get there. It's so much more meaningful.
One of the other areas that you are passionate about, and I want to talk more about the coaching aspect in a bit, but I mean, relationship coaching. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you're passionate about that and exploring that area. Do you provide relationship coaching right now with your husband?
Yeah, absolutely. We both mentor. We don't really necessarily call it coaching, but it is something that we explore and we mentor, people. And so it's something that's important to us, especially somebody who wants to fight for their marriage. Not the person who's already ready to check out, but somebody's like, man, this is not fun anymore. I don't know if we just grew apart. Let's, get help this one last chance before we call it quits. That's where as long as there's hope, anything is possible. Yeah, seriously, biblically it says if the faith of a mustard seed can move mountains. So you just mustard seed, if you've seen a mustard seed, how tiny they are, it's like a little pepper flake, so you don't need that much faith. You just need to have some faith, and anything's possible. I've seen radical changes in a lot of relationships that have turned around, and I think that it's it's a fight. We do evolve and we do change. You are supposed to grow, not apart, but you're supposed to grow and evolve and change, and you learn to court and embrace each other differently. If I was the same person that my husband met back in 2006, we'd have a lot of problems. I probably would not be a very good mom, and I probably would not be a very good wife. And so, it's giving your spouse or your partner permission to shift and change. Who cares if they didn't like the things that they like now they used to not like? Who cares if they're just different? It seems like their personality shifted. Get excited. That's exciting. You don't have to be with the same, pursue the things. And if you're not that, then pull it out. We're called to call the gold out of each other. So if you notice, for example, if your husband is just, he goes to work, comes home, goes to work, comes home, and he doesn't look like there's spark in him anymore. What does he need to go out with your guy friends, go play golf, go do something, encourage him to go do something that's going to give him life back, because we don't want to, again, navigate life or partnership or family dynamics just getting by, enjoy each other. There's just, it's exciting that we get to evolve and shift and change.
Yeah. And I think, you think about mindset as well, how we feel about each other, how we feel about ourselves, our self-esteem. I like to tell people, as I mentioned, we're works in progress, but at the same time, we're masterpieces. But we have to continue putting in the work to ourselves to perfect that piece, that painting, painting or whatever it may be. You have to, smooth some things out over here. You have to massage this out over here. You have to add a little color and a little bit of spice over here. And then at the end, you've got a product, and then it's time to move on to the next thing, right? And you're just continuously working. But I don't know that people see themselves as an opportunity like that.
Right. And what if we did? Because was a beautiful picture you just painted. Literally, that picture just sounds so beautiful. Really, the root of a lot of marriage failure or relationship failure is just the communication or lack of, right? So in that painting, when you, as you were saying that, I'm literally seeing this smudge over here is that difficult conversation I had to
Yeah.
have. This little mark right here is like, again, all the things that I didn't want to do, but I know I should do because that's me just showing up the way I want to be. I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it because I promised myself I was going to be a level 10, spouse or whatever. Like, because if you show up, you're willing to show up like level 2 in any area of your life, I promise you it impacts other areas of your life. It impacts your business. It impacts your gym. Like, you cannot be level 10 in anywhere in your life if you are willing to compromise an important relationship at level 1 or level 2.
You're touching on such good subjects right now. I like to think I'm
I'm sorry I went there.
No, you're touching on some great subjects. You're touching, I like to think what we do here, is I like to bring people in and have, a good talk about everything. I don't care who it is, we talk, and some people have, communication styles that are not easy to speak with. You, on the other hand, I mean, you're cooking here. You communicate very well. That is one of your skills, would you say?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. And where did that come from?
I've done a lot of public speaking. I'll go way back, probably to childhood when I would get in trouble for talking too much in the class.
Yeah, who didn't?
Great grades, but she, like E for conduct because she speaks too much. But really, it's evolved. I think as my confidence got more solid in my identity and like that I'm not for everyone, and that's also okay, and not being a people pleaser anymore. I think that's where it shifted, where I realized like my voice has value, to the people that need to hear what I have to say. Not everybody's I'm not gonna be everybody's cup of tea, but I know that I'm for someone, and it's okay. We all are. We're all unique and different in such beautiful ways that. Just own it, like own what's important to you, your values, and if it can add value to somebody else, then it's worth saying. And but yeah, I've had an opportunity to speak in big settings. I've spoken over to 50,000 people, and so that got me real uncomfortable, real quick. Yeah. But it's challenged me to work at speaking in big audiences, and so.
So I understand you just did a keynote recently as well.
Yeah, we were speakers at a real estate event. So we got to speak to about 280 attendants, top producers in the real estate sphere. And so that was really exciting and a huge honor to be part of.
And so what did you talk to them about?
We talked about peak performance, about, having the energy and the mindset to show up as the person that you want to be in your business. A lot of like what we're talking about today, it was, a little bit risky to go into this room when they're expecting to learn more about real estate content and building their business. But, my husband and I, we prayed about it. We felt really comfortable to go in and share the things that we felt like needed to be heard. And it was just really, again, a lot of what we're talking about, like who's your accountability? It's no secret that the real estate market has shifted. Things are different. Interest rates are high. It is what it is. And you can still be successful in this market. So where's our mindset? Are you freaking out like, oh my gosh, this market's changed? Or like, okay, there's opportunity. Within every problem lies an opportunity. So we have to get our mindset in check. We talked about exercise and the things that help us, even from like your vitamins, going to the doctor, getting your lab work. Sometimes people are stressed out and depressed, and it's just their hormones are off balance. Like you just need your hormones checked.
That's true. But health is important, right, as well. So let's talk about that a little bit. How you wake up, how much you're sleeping, what you put into your body, how you move, it affects your performance, right? And everything else, right? You mentioned relationships, if you're not eating right, if you're not sleeping, if you're running yourself into the ground with stress and work and kids, you're probably not going to be a good partner. Like you mentioned, you're probably going to show up to work, be dead and not perform, right? And how important is health and wellness to all of this work?
Yeah, I think like we were saying, it's very interconnected. And with the planning aspect, I think most people don't realize how easy it is to be healthy. We are challenged with health when we don't have options. So when you're hungry and it's lunchtime and you didn't plan, and you're like, gosh, that fast food place looks very convenient and pretty good, then that's where we fall short. But it's just, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So it's the planning in advance, and even from the time perspective, like it's not even, yes, it is about the health, but I'm outside of the health. Like I love that every day, I never have to worry about what I'm going to eat or when I'm going to eat or where. I have an alarm that goes off when I'm supposed to eat or drink a protein shake or whatever. Granted, mine is a little more aggressive because I have, you know, the bodybuilding goals, but even outside of that, you know, it's just meal prepping and having those so that I'm not interrupted. If I'm in the middle of working on something and I'm in a flow, I don't have to stop and like, God, the hunger's killing me. I need to go and pick up something to eat. No, I'm like, I have a plan for that. Like, that's not going to help. That's not going to make me be what pivots from my work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's again, organization, right? And, you know, learning, trial by error, all of those things to get that schedule down right, because how you maximize your day, how do you utilize the time in the day?
And I'll even kind of interweave this into the relationship, you know, I think also too, from like an intimate perspective, you know, if you're not healthy, you don't feel well, you probably don't feel confident in your body or in the things because of the things you've been feeding it. Also, there's a lot of fast food that they reduce like your serotonin and all the things that impact like intimacy and connection with your spouse. So those are all things like you should, at least for that benefit alone, you know, take care of yourself so that you can feel comfortable and confident and have the energy, you know, to show up in your relationships.
Sometimes I don't eat fast food, but sometimes, you know, I get a burger or something because I have to, basically. And I just feel, oh man, I feel terrible when I eat, you know, a Whataburger or something
and
like
even
that.
For people that don't have like specific physique goals, I'm really big about I coach a couple people with nutrition, and one of them we're working on because she's had like an unhealthy, you know, pattern with food. We're working on intuitive eating. And so that's something that is, you know, really amazing. Intuitive eating is literally just listening to your body. When you want it, have a bite, have a couple bites, have some, but you don't have to finish the whole plate. Again, that's also very, very common in the Hispanic culture. I remember, I mean, a lot of us have the abuelitas that are just like, finish it, mija. Like,
you gotta
it's
eat
good, you know, do you want more? And so we are, you know, struggling with health challenges because of, again, there's this guilt of like, oh, it's going to go to waste. Well, it's better in that waste than on your waste, because not just from the physical aspect, but now we're impacted with cholesterol and high blood pressure and all the other medical conditions that can come from, you know, eating more than we should or eating things that are not like feeding our body. Again, it's not to say be strict. Like if you want a piece of that chocolate cake, like have your couple bites, like be satisfied, but you don't need to eat the whole thing.
Yeah. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with having a snack, right? I mean, if you're beating yourself up for having a snack, folks, then this is, you know, we're not doing this right.
That's right.
You know, because you should do the things that you really want to do and do the things that make you feel good, but there's a balance, right? Now, you mentioned the word balance earlier. You said you don't think that's a thing.
I don't.
So tell me about that.
I think that, again, it's all interconnected. I think that, you know, when we chase balance, then we're not excelling at anything in our life. So when you're excelling at something, something's got to give. You know, I can't be, you know, level 10, you know, when I'm competing for bodybuilding. Like we go into it knowing, okay, where is the leverage pieces going to go into in our business and some of the things that I do, because I know, you know, from the physical aspect to the mental aspect, you know, when I have, you know, the pivots with my children and maybe there's something that's come up and I need to show up as mom, you know, and that's my priority in that season, like then maybe a couple of things are going to feel off balance in my business, and it's okay. So I think it's really challenging to chase this concept of balance, because there's always going to be things that come up that are pressing, or if you're a high achiever that you have goals that you just have to make peace with. For me, when I'm going after a big aggressive goals, whether my business or my health, I have to make peace that I'm not going to have much of a social life. And so the people who love me and support me will understand. And I'm like, you can come to my house and hang out, but I'm not getting out. I'm not like, you know, it's my family. And then, you know, that's first and foremost, and then everything else. So just finding, you know, like it's okay to look at not being super balanced as healthy. Like, I don't think it's unhealthy to not have balance. It's just, what is your priority? What is the one thing that if I did it, everything else would be okay in this season, in this moment?
So if we're having a cheat meal tonight, what are you eating?
A burger.
From where?
Ooh.
Would you make your own?
Juicy burger with like the egg in it,
okay,
and like fancy cheese, like Gouda or something.
Yeah,
fun.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that sounds real good though, right?
You
now.
know, do you eat that? Do you eat?
I'm in an off-season plan, and I do get one cheat meal a week. So, yeah, it's a lot of times I let the kids pick. It's important for me that they see me enjoying food and not living like limited on, you know, even though I have my goals, but I usually let them pick.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So again, you know, you're telling me all these things. And I know, as you mentioned, just from previous conversations and even now that, not everything goes according to plan.
No.
We mentioned earlier the word vulnerability, right? Tell me one failure that you've had throughout all of these other successes in life that has led you to this spot.
Man, there's a lot. I think, I've experienced it both in business and, as a parent. I think my parenting journey has probably been the biggest challenge because we had a lot of things that we were navigating through, trying to find answers. And so that is one that they kind of protected. Like people would be like, you sure? Because I do believe the power of vulnerability and connecting with people. Like, your social media is it's a beautiful tool, and it can be something that, there's a comparison is the thief of joy, right? Like where we see nothing but the highlight reels. And so it's important that we occasionally share, where our challenges are, because there's usually a connection or someone that can help lift you up, that's been through it, that's come through the other side. And so I know that my story is kind of being written in that way. At one point, I will feel confident to be able to share that parenting journey, and maybe I'll be on the other side to be able to help other moms. And so I'm in that right now. So that's been something, as a high achiever and I'm going after these things, I sometimes have that heavy guilt of like, I'm not being present enough at home for my kids, or I'm not, doing enough to help him, even though we've been, we have resources and things, but it's just these stories we tell ourselves. You never get it all down, right? Like we're hard on ourselves. We're our own worst critics. And so it's just having that team, that support to remind, like sometimes it's just expected out of the blue. I'll have a day where I'm just really struggling and somebody will come and tell me, Candy, I just want you to tell you this and this about your kids. Like you've done an excellent job. And I'm like on the floor crying because they didn't know how much I needed to hear that to lift me up. And in business, I mean, there's been a lot of occasions. I shared with you the business that I was in, and just, a lot of leadership mistakes that I made, but, I grew from every single one.
That's good.
And I to this day, I've taken those things and just, how can I be better? Where I've fallen short, where I didn't, allowing people in my business stay, even though there was like toxic, but me not wanting to like, oh, everything's gonna be okay. And you kind of pretend like it's fine, but that it's one person that's spreading like toxicity and you just ignore it. That's a problem. A good leader addresses it and you either fix it or you cut it out, because it will impact like high performers or other people. And so those were things that I was not willing to go through the hard conversation and cut it out because I didn't want to hurt feelings and just hoped. But hope is not a strategy. so I made a lot of mistakes, but I'm always open-minded. Like I'll take correction from anyone that has, it's done it better. That's why I have coaches, because I need people to help me see the blind spots.
Well, we got to give a shout out to the coach who gave you your nails. Look at those nails. My God. Those things right there have been having my eye all show.
My weapon.
My goodness. Look at those things. My word.
I've been seeing her since 2014. My nail girl.
So she went all out this time.
No, this is basic. This is like super basic.
All right, we'll get a close up on the nails later. So would you believe me if I told you we have 5 minutes left in the show?
No, it went by so fast.
Yeah. So tell me what's next for Candace?
Well, evolving in my coaching business. I'm really excited about that. And
so where can people find you if they want to get coached by you?
Facebook, here, Candace Terrazas, or Instagram. Candace Terrazas is my handle. Just message me, and I'd love to set up an exploratory call. That one's complimentary, and this is just where we get to see if it's the right fit. You kind of share what your goals are, what's going on, where you feel like you need a coach to championing you. And so then, we'll have that conversation, hopefully make it a powerful one and decide from there.
Interesting. Well, this has been a great conversation. I mean, I feel like we talked about a lot of things, but there's some things we might have left out. Is there anything you want to add while we have a couple of minutes left in the show? I feel like we didn't chat about everything. I don't know.
I feel like we chatted about everything.
Maybe we did. Who knows?
I don't know. It's going to come up later. We can just talk and talk.
The polarities. So, we'll do an Instagram live later for all the folks. But listen, folks, we appreciate you. For tuning in with us, for watching live tonight. You can always reshare this, YouTube, Facebook. Find us on Instagram, DM us. Let us know what you thought about the show. Let us know how we can help you get to your next destination, because, folks, everybody is going somewhere and nobody gets where they're going alone. That's right. And so I also know some people that are going through tough times. Yeah. So if you're looking for a sign, if you're waiting for a message, one of the things I hate hearing about is, mental health issues with men. specifically, because, you know, we don't know how to deal with it. You know, we've been socialized and programmed and been taught to think that this stuff, we don't know how, we can't talk about these things. We can't, you know, handle them within us, you know? And so sometimes we need some love. We need some tough love. We need some, you know, some sweet love, right? We need some way to kind of figure that out within ourselves. And I think the coaching that you mentioned is a way that, you know, people can find some help. You know, help looks like a lot of different things. It's not just one thing.
Yeah, it's coming alongside you. You think about any profession that you, or any athlete or anything that you respect at a high level, they all have coaches. LeBron James doesn't show up on the court because he's a level 10 that day. He was a level 10 in practice with a coach that's pushing him and encouraging him day in, day out, so that it's not a surprise on game day. And so it's the same thing in life. You know, if you have these aspirations or goals, or you're in just like that stuck mode, like I'm feeling stuck, I can't, you know, maybe it's mental illness, you know, depression, anxiety, things that are keeping you. Sometimes you just need somebody like, hey, you know, like you just need encouragement. You need to be able to share what you're going through, and there's no shame in that. Shame is the biggest lie that will keep you from going after what you are called to do and impact the people that you're called to impact. So, you know, just releasing that, knowing that if you're in those shoes, somebody else has been there too, and you know, there's a way out. You're not going to stay there.
Couldn't have said it better myself. See Candace on her show coming up here at VODPOD Media. Thank you so much for watching tonight, folks. Again, give us a like, give us a comment, give us a share. Send this to somebody that needs to hear it, because, you know, we're all here working together. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you next week every Tuesday night here at VODPOD Media. Guylan, I love you. Take it home. Candace, you're great.
Thank you. You're great.
Good stuff, girl. Appreciate you for
fun.
coming through.
Thank you so much.